Now, one indicator of well-being is average household incomes. And if you adjust for the CPI inflation of 27% Fiji-wide, what you can see nationally is that urban average household income increased by 19%, and rural average household income declined by minus 13%. Now, this is in aggregate in urban areas and aggregate in rural areas. When we look a little bit later at what has happened to the poorest and the richest, you'll see some very, very interesting changes. But what you can see at the bottom line of the table is that the rural-urban gap has increased from minus 31% to minus 50%. This is bad news for everybody who wants to foster rural development, because as long as that gap in average household incomes is there, the rural people are going to keep moving from rural areas to urban areas, and there's nothing you can do about it. At the end of the day, everybody in rural areas wants a decent standard of living for their families. And if they can't get it, and they see that something is better in the urban areas, or much better, and it's getting worse, they are going to move. Now, this is a very important table that every single politician in this country should understand, that when you look at real average household incomes for the different ethnic groups, what you find is that the indigenous Fijian, the Itoke, even we call them now, and Indo-Fijian average household incomes are pretty much the same. There's a bit of a 9% advantage for indigenous Fijians. Now keep in mind always when you present this table, we're talking about household incomes. We're not including in there corporate incomes. Because if you look at the companies and who owns the companies and where those corporate profits go to, this table does not apply to that. So we're really looking at the household income level, but there's a 9% gap in favor of indigenous Fijians, and the changes over time have pretty well been the same. The big changes, of course, have been for the group which is called others, and in Fiji the others have been changing in composition. What others once upon a time were Europeans, local Chinese and part Europeans, or whatever you used to call them. Now, of course, there's a very, very large and increasing Chinese community, new migrants, who probably are being reflected in the very, very big increases in average household incomes. Keep in mind also that, when you look at average household income, that does not tell you the standard of living. If you go to the next slide, this is the average household income per adult equivalent. Now, this tries to adjust for the household sizes, and we use the term adult equivalent, where adults over the age of 14 is counted as 1, and children 0 to 14 are counted as half an adult. And you try to therefore equalize the impact of household size. On average, Itoke households are one whole person bigger than Indo-Fijian. This means that even though average household incomes may be larger in favor of Itoke, when you account for the changes in household size, then you find that the gap, in fact, is the other way. Indo-Fijian households, are better off than Itoke households. There's more disposable income within Indo-Fijian households, and this, of course, is reflected in everything else. When you've got more money in the household, you can have a better standard of living because you can spend money on fridges, on cars, and, of course, on mobiles and all the other things we'll talk about later in the day. But here is a table which suggests that a very interesting trend in Fiji has been totally neglected by demographers. That when you've had a family planning in the country for the last 30 years, why is it that Indo-Fijian fertility rates have shown this incredibly historical decline to below replacement, and it's not really been matched by the similar decline in the indigenous Fijian households? And yet family size, of course, is a very, very big determinant of standards of living.